Welcome to Sports Guy Talking. I am Dustin Tran, your host, as I am here today to talk about the impacts of Tom Brady retiring from the NFL. Obviously, Tom Brady is the GOAT, and he will definitely go down as the most accomplished football player ever. However, what I am here to talk about is what is coming up for the Buccaneers since they are in QB purgatory right now. Before I say anything else though, I want to present you guys with the topic question. So, here it is. What should the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do at the quarterback position? And what I'm going to say about the Buccaneers is that they've had a great run the last 3 years. They got a Super Bowl ring out of it. They won 2 NFC South division titles with a 40-plus-year-old quarterback in Tom Brady. They acquired him in free agency, and now that era is going to end. Now the Buccaneers, it seems like they're going to return back to being the Succaneers. There's a reason why they're the worst franchise in NFL history when it comes to winning percentage-wise. It's because they don't win very often. They may get their rings here and there, but for the most part, they don't win consistently, and it seems like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are about to go back to that era of football. When you look at this Tampa Bay Buccaneers roster, man, is it messed up or something like that. The Buccaneers are currently about $31 million over the salary cap. I know you guys don't necessarily want to hear the numbers, but ultimately what you need to know is that the Buccaneers, they're over the cap by a considerable amount, and they have a lot of free agents coming up, and they have a lot of players that they probably need to release. Okay, just for them to get even under the cap, just for them to even have cap space, they're probably going to have to get rid of Donovan Smith. They're going to have to get rid of Shaq Mason. They're going to have to get rid of Leonard Fournette. They're probably going to have to get rid of Cameron Brate, and they're definitely going to have to get rid of their kicker in Ryan Suckup, and they're probably going to have to restructure or trade Carlton Davis since his contract is pretty pricey. Now, Davis, he's a good player, but man, he's pricey. So that's what the Buccaneers have to do to even get just under the cap. And I've heard some people talk about acquiring quarterbacks via trade, but I'm like, how are the Buccaneers even going to have the money to even trade for these quarterbacks? I mean, sure, they could restructure a bunch of contracts and push their salary cap problems back a year. But the truth of the matter is, if they trade for a quarterback, it's not necessarily like they're going to be elevated to Super Bowl contention. This roster is aging, this roster is getting old, and it's getting tired out faster and faster. Okay, and you look at some trades that are out there. Aaron Rodgers, I'm pretty sure every Bucs fan is probably hoping, hey, I really want to get Aaron Rodgers because that contract looks really affordable for the team that ends up trading for him. But you have to think about it from the Packers' perspective. Why would the Packers want to trade him to a team within the NFC? They've already shown a history of not really caring what they get in return as long as they send him to the opposite conference. And also think about the fact how the Bucs aren't really in a position to give up draft picks anyway. They need all the draft picks that they can get because they have a lot of needs that they need to fill out. And getting Aaron Rodgers, they're going to have to give up their first round pick, and they're probably going to have to give up a future second or something like that. That's not necessarily good for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I would have to rule out the Aaron Rodgers option. I don't think that's a realistic option for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I've heard another option is trading for Carr, but that cap hit of $40 million right now, it's going to be really expensive for them to even have. I mean, the fact that the Bucs have to do so much just to get under the cap and then create even more cap space for the contract of Derek Carr, there's no way I see that happening. And I know some people are saying, oh, but the Raiders, maybe they can release Derek Carr and maybe the Bucs can pick him up in free agency. And although that would be a dream scenario for Bucs fans, let's be realistic, guys. I don't think that's going to happen because Derek Carr is too good of a player to accept a 1-year, $10 million deal. He's just not going to do that, and that's the kind of contract that the Bucs need to be going ahead and signing anyways. So as far as trading for a star quarterback on the trade market, that's off the table. The Bucs just don't have enough money to even create cap space for that. Or they could theoretically, then they would have to gut the rest of the team. So no Aaron Rodgers, no Derek Carr. So you look at what else the Buccaneers can do in free agency. Their backup quarterback, Blaine Gabbert, is a free agent. Now maybe the Bucs can go ahead and re-sign him. If they do re-sign him though, it shows that they might not necessarily be serious about winning. I mean, Blaine Gabbert is a quarterback that's been in the league 12 years and he's never been able to be a starter at any place. So the fact that we're talking about re-signing Blaine Gabbert to start for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I don't think that's necessarily thrilling for Bucs fans to even hear about. Now, obviously, you look at the free agency market, you look at Lamar Jackson, Jimmy Garoppolo, Geno Smith, Daniel Jones. Those are basically the top 4 options on the free agency market. Let's be honest, though, the Bucs are not really in contention to get any of them. Lamar Jackson's going to win a ridiculous contract. The Bucs don't have the money for that. As for Jimmy Garoppolo, I've heard that name float around a little bit. He's not going to return to the 49ers, but I think Jimmy Garoppolo, he won't necessarily want to go to this Bucs team since they don't really have a good coach to begin with anyways, and Jimmy Garoppolo, he likes to play for coaches that are pretty good, so I think Jimmy Garoppolo will pass up on the opportunity to play for the Bucs so he can go play for another contender, someone like the New York Jets, someone like the Carolina Panthers, just something like that. So you look at it from that perspective, they're probably out on the Jimmy Garoppolo sweepstakes, which means that now they're left to Geno Smith or Daniel Jones, but I don't think that they're in contention to get either of them. I think they're going to both stick with their respective teams. So who does that leave them with? Some options that I think that they got to look at are Jacoby Brissett, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Drew Lock. Obviously, you have to look at re-signing Blaine Gabbert. There's also the Andy Dalton factor there as well. So with Blaine Gabbert being a free agent, the Bucs are going to have to potentially re-sign him or let him walk, which means the only quarterback they have on the depth chart right now is Kyle Trask, a guy that I liked coming out of Florida 2 years ago. But Kyle Trask, he's only been activated one ever game. When he did play, he wasn't necessarily too impressive. I do like Kyle Trask. I think he has good potential for this team, but who's to say that the Bucs shouldn't or should add competition? They should add competition around Kyle Trask. They shouldn't just give the reins to Kyle Trask. They need to see what else they can have. So those are some quarterbacks that I have for them. Personally, I would personally pick Jacoby Brissett as the guy that Kyle Trask should be competing with. Why do I say that? Because Jacoby Brissett is a guy that's got experience all over the place, both as a starter and as a backup. We know he can mentor well. We know the fact that if Jacoby Brissett needs to step in, he can be a solid quarterback if necessary. I don't necessarily like the option of Baker Mayfield because Baker Mayfield's not necessarily a good fit for this poor O-line that the Bucs have. We've seen Baker Mayfield with bad offensive lines. He's just simply going to get his passes batted down all the time. Then, of course, there's the Sam Darnold factor. He played so well for the Carolina Panthers. They turned it over 3 times to help the Buccaneers win when he needed to have a winning in game for the Panthers late last year. But I do think that Sam Darnold to the Bucs is a much higher possibility than what people are playing it out to be, because he's got the connection with Todd Bowles, and maybe he can resurrect his career on the Bucs with the weapons that they do have. So I do think Sam Darnold's got to be an option for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then of course there's Drew Lock, he can resurrect his career there as well. And then of course there's Andy Dalton, a guy that can serve as a bridge. He's shown that he can play solid football at times, but for the most part he's not really an inspiring option. Either way though, I don't think the Bucs can go ahead and sign a very good caliber quarterback. They're going to have to sign a backup / bridge starter, and they're going to have him compete with Kyle Trask. I don't think the Bucs should draft a quarterback. They're out of range to get an Anthony Richardson. They would probably have to reach for a guy like Hendon Hooker, but I wouldn't even do that if I'm the Bucs. If I'm the Bucs, I just go ahead and sign Jacoby Brissett to a 1-year deal, have him and Kyle Trask compete for the starting job, and then if it doesn't work out, the Bucs can go ahead and draft a quarterback next year in the first round, where that draft class is going to be a lot deeper. They can get a guy like Caleb Williams, they can get a guy like Drake May, they can get a guy like that. So if you're the Bucs, you're going to just have to take your lumps for 2023 and just use that year to basically get cap space off the books and to try to get contracts off the books and try to trade for some draft picks. So that's what they should do. So that is why the Buccaneers should just give the keys to Kyle Trask, as this will be his tryout year for them. If not, then they can give the job to Jacoby Brissett. Just have those two compete for the starting job. Remember, go ahead and subscribe to Sports Guy Talking. Like the video and please comment down below. If you guys do that, make sure you guys out my Instagram story every Monday. That'll be for the @Dustin Tran Instagram account. Make sure to follow me on Instagram @Dustin Tran and @Sports Guy Talking. Also, go follow me on Twitter @Dustin Tran. Again, go ahead and do those things that I just told you guys to go do. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the content that was just produced. Peace out. I hope you enjoyed that video. Want more Sports Guy Talking, the home of great sports content? Make sure you click that subscribe button to get the latest from Sports Guy Talking. Go ahead and like the video, comment down below, check the description box on the video in order to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the YouTube channel, Sports Guy Talking.